What's up, everybody? Welcome to the download. I am your host, St. James, and today is a super special episode. I am talking to Hall of Fame speaker of over, you've spoken over to 4.5 million people and 45,000 engagements, give or take a few thousand.
Yeah, who's counting?
Ladies and gentlemen, the legendary Dan Clark.
Thanks, James.
This is where you clap, guys.
Yeah.
All right, so Dan, what I like to do is just kind of do a quick icebreaker question. Yeah. When you were in high school, you were voted what? Or you were in the running for what, do you think?
You know, it's so crazy, James. I was the outstanding athlete in our school 3 years in a row.
What?
I got all of my attention as an athlete, and that's why when I was paralyzed playing football, I lost my identity.
Oh, no.
And I had to find a new game to play. But philosophically, what I learned is that when you identify yourself in terms of what you do instead of who you are, you become a human doing instead of a human being.
There we go.
Unacceptable of successes and significance is what we seek. So I didn't know it at the moment, but now in retrospect, football's not who I am as a man, it's just what I did.
Amen to that.
And we have to separate the person from the performance.
Right.
And when we can do that, we can solve racial issues, gender issues, age issues.
Right.
When we separate the person from the performance, you know, the character-based, the honesty, the integrity, the commitment to service before self. That's how we really understand diversity, equity, and inclusion. That's how we really understand what it's going to take for us to heal America.
Right.
Is what I learned all those years ago about when I had to recover from my football injury. We have to understand that the same God who made you made me too. Everybody's an important human being.
That's right.
And when we separate what they do or what they do not do, we can always engage in that respectful, mutual respect and support attitude towards humanity. That was a long answer to your question, but why not throw that in as we begin?
I love it all. Absolutely. So after you kind of got out of high school and then you went into the pro leagues, what is it what you expected it to be at the time? Because it always seems to throw people off. They're like, the game is so fast and this is going on and there's so much tension.
The reality is that at the end of the day, you have to understand that competition is never against someone else. It's against yourself.
Amen to that.
Because you'll always find someone bigger, faster, stronger, smarter, better looking, more talented. So you can be overwhelmed by the competition. And if you're freaked out by the speed of someone else, the solution is to increase your own speed.
Right.
If you're getting the crap kicked out of you by an offensive tackle who bench presses 500 pounds and I only bench 300 pounds, what do? I have to get my bench press up. You scratch where it itches. So in medicine, what we've been taught is that prescription before a diagnosis is malpractice.
Okay.
In other words, if we ask the right questions, we can get the right answers. You can't get a right answer from a wrong question. But at some point, we need to question the answers.
Okay.
And that's what's so famous about this podcast. That's what's so cool about you, James, is because you see what is, but you don't look at it for what it is. You look at it for what it has the power and potential to become. So when you go into a locker room, when you go onto the field as an athlete, when you go into a classroom, when you go into a business setting,
right.
If you follow some extraordinary sales professional who just made his or her presentation and now it's your turn to go in and make your presentation to see who gets the business, if you're worried about what he or she said or what they're doing or the price, you're going to lose every time. You know, if money's the topic of conversation, it means the presentation is weak and the relationship is non-existent.
Holy.
So it's always about the person. It's always about competing against ourselves. And if you play golf, that's the best analogy I can give you.
There we go.
If we go out to a beautiful country club here in Buffalo and Chris Noggle and your team, you decide to sponsor this charity golf tournament to raise money for an amazing cause, and we play on a beautiful 18-hole country club with a 72 par, and I shoot 108, and everybody else shoots 125, and I win because I suck less than you suck, that's a bad system.
There we go.
So are you tall or are you short? Are you wide or are you thin? Are you fast or are you slow? Are you smart or are you stupid? Are you handsome? Are you ugly or pretty ugly or are you pretty?
There we
Says
go.
who? compared to what?
Yeah.
So when we gather together in best practices, that's a bad limiting belief. That's a bad exercise, because what we're doing is forgetting that best is only relevant depending on what we compare it against.
That's right.
Albert Einstein said everybody's a genius, but if you judge a fish by its ability to climb a tree, it will spend its entire life believing it is stupid.
Wow.
So I have my own podcast, Power Players with Dan Clark, but if I compete against you and your elegance and your eloquence, I'll always be intimidated. I got to say, St. James, my gosh, you inspire me to be a better version of myself, not competing against others or doing something because it's expected by others, but because it's demanded of myself.
Okay, well, there we go. I don't think you guys realize how intense and how insightful and how much knowledge, wisdom, and understanding is coming from Dan Clark. If you don't heart this one, if you don't like this one, if you don't follow his podcast for so much insight and information, I've had the luxury and the opportunity, I'm done fanning out, by the way, to listen to him. Make sure you do that now. I don't mind if you pause this podcast and go follow him. Dan Clark Speaker on Instagram as well.
Actually, it's Dan Clark Speak.
Dan Clark Speak. That's even
on
better.
Instagram, yeah.
So you're going to be seeing a wealth of information, knowledge, and understanding, and I think that's absolutely great. And thinking about Dan Clark Speak, you teach others how to speak as well.
Oh, yeah. It's my passion. It's my favorite thing. I've written so many speeches for celebrities.
Okay.
I've written 5 speeches for Kareem Abdul-Jabbar. I wrote his TED Talk. It was the number 1 TED Talk for 30 days. Derek Huff, Donnie Osmond, Diamond Dallas Page.
What?
Hank Haney, Tiger Woods golf coach. Yeah, a lot of NFL superstars.
I'm a big wrestling fan. So when you said DDP, that's like...
He's my guy. We'll call him after we get off the air.
If we do that, it's over. It's over. It's over. I'm going to be doing yoga while we're talking to him. That's wonderful.
Yoga for regular guys.
Yes, exactly.
But yeah, what happens is everybody has a story to tell, and it's your story, but it's not your story to keep if it can heal the world, if it can help somebody become the best version of themselves. And too many times I find very intelligent, very articulate individuals, and they just don't know how to put together their speech. They don't know how to craft a speech that listeners love. So I do these speaker boot camps based on my book, Speak Like a Pro. I've taught public speaking at the university level for 11 years. So it's part of my syllabus, part of my curriculum, but it's infused with so many things that I've learned as a professional speaker since 1982. My mentor was Zig Ziglar.
Of course. I told that redhead.
I know. And so I have these speaker boot camps sprinkled all over the country. And I have these, what I call storytelling master classes.
Okay.
Where I help people hone in on finding their story, their signature story. And then with my personality and my experience, as Maya Angelou reminds us, people don't remember what we say, they remember how they feel. So I make sure everybody's story is funny, evocative with a quote, and emotional so that we remember it.
That's right.
And I challenge all of you to look on my website, danclark.com, and just see when I'm having the next boot camp. I have one in Utah coming up in September. I'll have another one in Arizona. I have one in Vegas. I'll come East Coast if anybody's interested. And visualize gathering a group of people who really want to be speakers. They want to figure out how to get paid for speaking, and more importantly, they want to become better storytellers so they can be better leaders, better sales professionals, better parents, better coaches.
I have a few questions to follow up with that, too. The first one is, you've got this masterclass, Utah, Arizona, Las Vegas, and you have so many, this whole assembly of people who want to speak. Is it hard to get people to shut up?
That's so funny. No, because we have mutual respect and support. Everybody gets a shot.
Right.
So, when you come to a true mastermind format, everybody gets probably 15 minutes to stand up in front of the group and share who they are, what they do, and what they're asking for. What are they looking for? They need connections with this. They need to raise capital. They need to understand social media marketing, whatever the case may be. So masterminds bring together people who think the same, who want the same thing, and so we're there to help each other out.
Right on.
But in a speaker's boot camp, 2 things happen. We get around round tables. We might have 40 people there. So we put people in groups of 4 around a table. I give them a punchline in music.
Oh boy!
It's the song remembers when, as Trisha Yearwood sings. It's the hook that sells the song.
Yes, it is.
Live like you're dying.
Okay.
Beat it, Michael Jackson, whatever the case may be. And I assign these random folks gathered around these round tables to write a story, make it funny, evocative with a quote, and emotional that ends with that punchline.
Right.
Like the story I concluded with, I just stayed to help her cry.
That's right.
You know, the puppy will need someone who understands, one of my iconic stories, Puppies for Sale. So we have that experience, number one. But number two, everybody there gets a chance to, their homework assignment, they show up to the master class. They show up to the Speak Like a Pro speaker boot camp with their story. We call it a signature story. And the assignment is, what would you drive 5 hours one way to say to somebody for free?
Okay.
And that means if there's inclement weather or your flight's canceled, you're still going to make it because you feel called to share this with the world.
Right.
And number two, the tip of the spear is, if you had 1 hour to live, what would you say? Ooh. And once you clarify your message, then you look in your life. I call it the balance wheel. We have 9 aspects of life: physical fitness, continuous education, deeper spirituality, emotional stability, financial literacy, social networking, family togetherness, fun and recreation, and charitable giving.
There we go.
And you'll use that template to extract from your memory experiences that change your life, experiences that will illuminate, that will illustrate your message to the world, your last lecture.
Okay.
And that becomes your signature story. And then what we do is have everybody stand up, and they take turns, and they stand up and tell the story. So the story has a hello and a goodbye.
Right.
And some might be 5 minutes, some might be 10, some might be 11, 12. And then I use my expertise and experience to help them edit so every word pays its own way, remove the redundancy, and then collectively we add to that person, we embellish, we pour into them. I see the humor here. We could add this quote, and we Google a quote by Albert Einstein, quote by whomever.
Right.
And then we tie in the emotion. How do you get people to remember what they're feeling because that story was told? Mm-hmm. So everybody leaves at least with a signature story that's polished, professional, embellished, with a desire to get a TED Talk, with the tools to craft a speech that listeners love, the 8 elements that we talk about, which obviously ends up in writing their own book if they want. So I challenge anyone who wants to become a better sales pro,
all right,
a better coach, a better communicator, climb the leadership ladder in your organization. It is required that you become a better public speaker, a better story seller. And Warren Buffett says you can increase your value in the marketplace by 50% simply by becoming a great and polished, eloquent public speaker.
All right. Guys, give it up for Dan Clark. Make some noise for Dan Clark. Come on. Oh, gosh. He's telling people to be polished. I like that. So I'm going to let you in on a secret. And only you, me, and the tree will ever know this.
Yes, sir.
I've always wanted one of my bucket lists. We were talking about bucket lists at your presentation just now. And one of my life goals is to do a TED Talk.
Oh, yeah.
No matter what. It's one of my just personal major endeavors. Climb Mount Fuji in Tokyo.
Wow.
As soon as I'm able to get back into Japan. Do a TED Talk.
Yeah.
And climb a bunch of pyramids, all of them, if at all possible.
That's so cool.
And you've been able to achieve a few goals, but I want to go back to one thing about speaking before we start talking about these goals. And it's about speaking. As you know, there's a very famous quote that people are more likely to choose death over public speaking. Why?
Because they have the misnomer is that the number one fear of people is speaking in public. No, the number one fear is not speaking well in public.
Oh, okay.
Big difference. So when you're prepared, you shall not fear.
Okay.
You know, what I learned downrange, I've been downrange 8 times firing up the troops in Iraq, Afghanistan. Mm-hmm. Navy SEALs will always remind us, under pressure, you don't rise to the occasion, you fall to the level of your training.
That's very true.
So pressure is not something that's naturally there. It's created when you question your own ability. And when you know what you've been trained to do, there's never any pressure. That's why we train and practice so hard. So when you get it down and know what you believe and then take time to polish, you're so funny.
I gotta start doing some push-ups.
You take
training now.
You got it so funny. You take time to practice and prepare. Give me the microphone. I remind people, if you're nervous before you speak, that means you think it's about you.
Okay.
But if you're excited to speak, you know it's about the audience. So seek to bless, not impress.
Okay.
Like today when I spoke, If people leave impressed with me, I blew it. But if they leave impressed with themselves and the potential they have to become a better version of who they are today, then I nailed it. That's what it's all about.
Well, I think you definitely impressed a lot of people, but you've also left a strong motivation to a lot of people that'll last for a while. At least you got 1, 2, 3, 4. Everybody that's on staff in the room today, I think you guys are feeling strong about this. Give me a thumbs up.
You're so funny.
Okay. They're like, yeah, all right, no problem.
That's
Nagy's left down. So we're going back now to, can we get a refill real quick?
No, I'm good.
Okay.
Good. Yeah.
So what I want to do is we were talking about goals. And you've had some life experiences. You've seen outer space, front row and center, for several hours.
Yeah.
I'm going to share with you another embarrassing story.
I love it.
I was 7 years old, and I wanted to be an astronaut. I didn't know how I was going to be one, but I wanted to be an astronaut. And then I started thinking, James, if you go to the moon and you jump, you may fall off the moon and never come back again. I said, I never want to be an astronaut from that point on.
That's funny.
So what are some of your bucket list goals? What are your lifetime goals? And how many of them have you accomplished? And what are you still looking to do at this point of your career?
That's a great question. I definitely I'm going to die while climbing.
Nice.
I don't want to die with, I'm going to die with my boots on. I don't want to die at the base of the mountain wondering, could I have made it up there?
Come on, let's go to Mount Fuji.
I'm telling you what. But, back to its storytelling, public speaking mindset, we have to understand if we're going to tell a story, why do I need to tell this story? Why do I need to tell it right now?
Okay.
If you want to curb drinking and driving DUIs, the conversation isn't, why do you have to drink and drive? The conversation is, why do you have to drink and drive right now?
Okay.
And if you don't have to drink and drive right now, and I can help you find a safe way home with a designated driver, an Uber, you still get the person home, but they don't have to drink and drive. So what we have to do is just keep asking ourselves why we want to do this. What are we going to get out of it? So there's two kinds of bucket lists, I would think. An adrenaline rush, which I've had my share of, fighter jets, bombers,
right.
Space. But when you get to my age and you look back and you're trying to leave a legacy, you're trying to teach something to the world, and you look at our greatest teachers,
okay.
Muhammad, Jesus, Gandhi, Buddha, the only way they left a legacy was to teach us what they learned from their life experiences.
That's right.
Jesus used parables. He was a storyteller, the master storyteller. But if you look at the historical backdrop of Jesus, that was the common way to communicate in the Jewish tradition at that particular time in the Holy Land.
That's so true.
So he wasn't standing out as the only one who used parables, but he taught through stories and experiences.
Okay.
And so when he talked to the woman at the well, he talked about water. When he talked to shepherds, he referred to sheep. When he talked to the Pharisees and the Sadducees, he quoted scriptures because they were intellectual. Now back to our experience. If I want to be able to communicate with everybody with whom I come in contact, I've got to understand it in terms of the analytics put on the sales profession. Stay with me on this. This will make sense.
We're all dialed in.
44% of sales professionals quit after the first sales call. 24% quit after the second sales call.
Okay.
14% quit after the third call, and 12% quit after the fourth call, which means 94% of sales professionals quit by the fourth sales call, and yet 85% of our sales are closed between the fifth and the 12th sales call.
Oh, geez.
So if we know that we need to interact with someone 5 to 12 times, if we understand that the definition of sales is the transference of trust, the definition of parenting is the transference of trust, the definition of coaching is the transference of trust, it would behoove us to figure out how we could accelerate that transference of trust in the quickest way. And the only way we can do that is to relate to people in some way where they relate to us having had the same life experience or the same bucket list items or whatever we're talking about. So in my profession, I know that I have an eclectic potpourri of different kinds of people, different demographics in every one of my audiences. So I'm in constant search of the new interview, constant search of the new experience, the new adventure.
Here we are.
To make myself more fascinating to be around, more compelling to talk to, and make myself an expert who speaks, not a speaker who just quotes theory,
Okay.
but someone who's lived. So the ultimate compliment is that I don't stand up and teach people just what I know. I teach who I am, what I live, what I've done.
Right.
So that I answer, why should I listen to you? Have you done it? Are you currently doing it? But then the second question is I answer, can I do it too with my past, with my weaknesses, with my limitations, and with my strengths? And then the third question that we always have to answer is, how do I do it? How do I get from where I am to where I want to be?
Okay.
Well, if you want to be inspired by me and I want to put myself in a position to inspire you, I better have done something that's extraordinary that makes me more fascinating to talk to and compelling to be around so I can inspire you to understand the sky's the limit when it comes to bucket lists.
Okay.
Okay, so if you want to climb Mount Fuji, which is awesome,
Okay.
that's not on my bucket list because my knees, I've had 7 surgeries, blah, blah, I'm saving my money up for liposuction and a tummy tuck.
Okay.
So if I come to the table as a human being and all I am is a mountaineer, I'll relate to you and you'll be fascinated by me. Oh, Clark, tell me how you did it. You climbed Mount Everest. You climbed Mount Fuji. You already did it. Tell me how you prepared. What equipment? Give me the scoop. But then the person next to you doesn't give a rat's wackazoodle about climbing mountains. Then I don't relate to him or her. I only relate to you.
That's right.
So what I try to do is just make sure my bucket list has something to do with adventure and interviews with famous and powerful people and how to make money, how to serve before self, music, just life. I have to understand the African American culture, the Asian American culture, the Native American culture, which fascinates me with their connection to the earth and the land and the water, sky. Hispanics. I have to be able to relate to everyone, otherwise I'm just a white guy.
Yeah, that's a big point.
And if I can relate as a human being, not as a human doing, then race and gender have nothing to do with our conversation. And you and I can both be a role model to anyone. It doesn't matter what we look like on the outside. It matters who we are on the inside out.
All right.
Because I've flown all the fighter jets and bombers, you can climb into a fighter jet, you can climb into the cockpit of a bomber, you can climb into the cockpit of a commercial airliner, and you could be male, female, black, brown, or white, and the jet doesn't care.
No, it doesn't.
Are you qualified? Are you prepared to do what you want to do?
And neither does gravity.
That's so funny. So, yeah, I'm always just looking for the new adventure, and bucket list changed too. I always wanted to skydive, and
Okay.
I had an opportunity, and then now I'm old. That's not on my bucket list anymore. My bucket list, I've had some top 10 tunes on Billboard. I want to have a number 1 song. I want to go across all genres. That's still what I want to do. I want
So
to
you
have
rap?
a number 1 tune.
I
got to figure out. I'll get you in on that. I'll have you and Snoop do a duet on my. I write meaningful, deep songs like "Had I Shot You When I Met You, I'd Be Out of Jail by Now."
Oh, that's
My
right.
wife ran off with my best friend, and I'm going to miss him dearly. That's a tearjerker. Remember my junior prom date? She inspired, "How can I miss you if you won't go away?" I've got some really good songs.
Well, definitely. Let's make that happen. I'd love to hear the whole album.
Yeah.
We'll stream it on Spotify. We'll be getting
That's
some
so
residuals.
funny,
I love
baby.
it.
Yeah.
I love it. So I'm glad that you brought all those things up. I'm glad that we're talking about all these different life goals because I was speaking to Jesse Itzler, and he was saying, he was like, look, at a certain point, you don't have to measure your life in years. Measure it in experiences. And to take it a step further, just because you're a journalism major and you graduate with journalism, it doesn't make you a writer because you have no experience, no perspective to really be able to explain these stories with any POV. You need to have those experiences, and that's what makes our lives, but we can share them with whoever's willing to listen, and hopefully it's the rest of the world.
Yep.
What was a big turning point in your life where maybe you had some type of paradigm shift? And I know we always talk about, you probably get asked 11 times about, coming back from an injury and, oh, my life. And we can obviously talk about that if you want, but give me another point. What is something else that developed you to become who you are today that was a huge paradigm shift?
It's a great question, James. Let's just give the backdrop. The educational mindset is called a C experience, SEE. Psychologists tell us that C experiences significant emotional events.
I'm stealing that.
Yep. They're experiences that we can actually measure. Mm-hmm. We can quantify how we thought, what we believed, and how we behaved before it occurred, and how we now think differently and behave differently because it occurred. Mm-hmm. So the two operative words in a C experience is significant emotional event, before and because, before and because. So I challenge all the listeners, all the viewers to understand that every one of us has had some sort of a significant emotional event. We just have to identify it. I did the 2-week executive experience at the Betty Ford Center in Rancho Mirage, California, and I wasn't addicted. I just was invited in because of what I do for a living way back in the day.
Okay.
And I realized that every person, regardless of their addiction, they go through a 60-day dry-out period, and then it comes time for them to face the music. What threw them into addiction?
Right.
Their wife left them. They went bankrupt. That's when they hit the bottle. That's when they got it. They had an injury, God forbid, and they got addicted to opiates.
Okay.
Whatever the case may be, they have to face the music. They have to scratch where it itches. If your nose itches, you don't scratch your elbow. Okay. You don't scratch your chin. Mm-hmm. We go to where it is, scratch where it itches. The classic example is if you blow out your knee and be a big boy, don't cry, and you weather the pain, eventually it turns into a brutal limp, which now causes back pain. And you finally break down and go to a back doctor, and he or she can't fix it because it's not a back injury. We have to go where the real source of pain is.
Yes.
And it was the name. So when we start talking about resiliency, when we start talking about, getting back up and going again, we have to change our mindset. Every single injury I've had, I've recovered from. I've broken my neck, my back, my nose, my jaw. I've had 2 hernias. That's funny.
Were you in the UFC or something? I'm going to fix this mic real quick for you.
That's
here.
Funny. Now, I've blown out my knees, broken arms. I've had my body's a hot mess. But every single time I've gone through the proper steps of rehabilitation, every part of my body that was injured became stronger than it was before I injured it.
Big time.
Including my heart, my shattered dreams, my broken heart. So regardless of what happens to us, we have the ability to get back up and go again.
That's right.
So probably the message is no matter what your past has been, you have a spotless future.
There we go. That's right. I mean, we are a collection of who we are in the past, but that doesn't necessarily dictate who we are going forward and into the future. And quite frankly, that's something that I've had to kind of deal with. Just because I'm from a certain place, just because I'm from a specific financial demographic, et cetera, I can't be limited by those thoughts. And I was just telling a few of my friends just today, don't be limited by your thoughts. I would like to share a quick story with you.
Yeah.
That literally happened this morning. And I thought it was just so inspiring. It's like, maybe I'll get a chance to tell this to Dan Clark. I'm at the gym, and I suffer from lower back pains from gosh knows what. So I said, okay, we're going to hit the bench press. And to everybody who's listening, I promise you this is not a Jim Bro story. This is not a Jim Bro story. Please don't pause me and just like, okay, this guy's going to go to that. I felt that my personal limit was 225 pounds, unassisted. It's like, whatever. It's 6 o'clock in the morning. My eyes aren't all the way open, but I need to keep the momentum. I need to keep the routine. So I slap on a few plates, get the warm-up set going, and I lift. Oh, geez, it feels a little heavy today. Maybe it's because I didn't warm up enough. Well, whatever. Slap on some more plates, and I'm like, oh, that's not the usual setup, but whatever. And I lift again. I said, oh, my gosh, this feels a little off today. Maybe I need to, go ahead and do a few more reps and really get myself up to shape. Says, something tells me, hey, go check the weight. Me and all my wisdom, I take a look at the weights, 45, 25, a 45, a 35, and a 25 for a grand sum, including the bar, 255, which I had never done. But had I set out and said, oh, today I'm just going to push myself and I need to be careful and put all these mental obstructions into my head, would I have been able to achieve the same thing? Quite frankly, between you, me, and the tree, and being honest, I don't believe that would have happened. So we have to be cognizant. We have to be aware that we can be our own worst enemies. And just because we have this mental obstruction doesn't mean that we can't surpass it.
Great story.
I appreciate it.
Yeah, add to that.
Well, that's why I'm telling it to you.
Because the mindset in the gym is so powerful. Okay. Every day we go in there with the attitude of creating discomfort on purpose.
Yes.
And spending one more minute on the pre-core than we did the day before.
Right.
Or the gym session before. Putting a little teeny bit more weight on the bar every single time we go. And then the brain damage begins when we leave the gym and we are unwilling to do that in our personal lives. We want it to be perfect 92-degree weather with the breeze coming out of the mountains over our shoulder, front row seats, backstage passes to every single concert, Princess parking, and a sale at every store.
Right.
And when it doesn't happen, we feel down. Oh, life's not fair. What a drag. I was born with the wrong hand. I was dealt the wrong hand. No. If you wake up every morning and get in that routine and begin with the gym mindset and on purpose create discomfort, on purpose get out of your comfort zone.
Yes.
And you sustain that through the rest of the day.
All right.
It's amazing what can happen. Do I have time to give you one more little analogy?
You think I'm cutting off this interview?
So
we can talk about the price of rice in China if you want.
So one of my favorite books is by James Clear. It's called Atomic Habits, because what he talks about is the exponential growth that comes from only increasing our performance by 1%.
There we are.
How powerful. He has all these great analogies. But I took that to a different level by realizing that every single day we have 414 minutes in every day.
Okay.
And 1% of that is 15 minutes.
Say that one more time. One more time.
Yeah. If we want to increase our performance by 1% and you dissect life, every day has 414 minutes.
Okay.
Which means that 1% of 414 minutes is 15 minutes. Which means if you could wake up every single morning 15 minutes earlier than you normally do, and you did that for 7 days, and then you did it for 30 days total, you would have 7.5 new productive waking hours to your month.
Yes.
And if you did that over the course of a whole year, you would add 90 more productive hours than you normally would have to become the best version of yourselves. What could you do with 90 extra hours? You could learn a foreign language. You could learn the money system, the money game. You could learn about relationships. You could learn about finance. You could learn about Bitcoin, crypto. You could learn about anything. I taught myself how to speak French by just waking up 15 minutes early.
All right,
bonjour, comment ça va? Je suis très content d'être ici. It's amazing what we can do. Yeah.
All right.
And then what happens is you can add another 15 minutes in the evening before you go to bed.
Right.
Knowing that as we sleep, our subconscious mind repeats the last thing we saw, heard, and said 14 times while we sleep.
Holy.
So if you add to that some powerful quote, some powerful 3.5-page story, something that you want to regurgitate while you sleep, you'll wake up a whole different person. Negative? No. Positive? Always. Wow. It's amazing how you can just add 1% at a time to your life, to your waking hours, and accomplish everything that you want to accomplish. My routine starts before anyone else that matters to me, work, especially my family, wakes up.
Okay.
Before anybody comes to the office, how early can you get there so you can get some me stuff done?
Right.
And as one of my heroes, Gary Brecker, reminds us, if you're selfish in the morning, you can be selfless all day long.
Okay.
Sky's the limit. Like you said, do what you want to do. Be who you want to be.
That's right. And the mornings are super important. I'm consistently refocusing on making my mornings as productive as possible, because that's your guiding compass. And at 1 degree, 1 minute can literally have a ripple effect throughout not just your entire day, but your entire week, your entire month, and obviously that accumulates to your entire life. I'm a punk. I just go to the gym. I know like mind reader Matt over here, he'll run 8 miles before the rest of the world even wakes up, and he thinks he's not doing anything, and I want to slap him real bad.
Exactly, yeah.
But that's his routine, and that's what he sets himself out to do, because he's like his goal, not my goal, but his goal is to be an ultra marathon runner. In my eyes, he is an ultra marathon runner. And how many times do we come across people who are wandering generalities? They're not meaningful specifics. They are not doing the steps that they can to just refine their lives to reach their penultimate happiness and fulfillment. Some of us have loftier goals than others, and that's fine. But are you actively enjoying the moment? And are you actively, or are you actively pursuing that? That's what I like to ask a lot of people. Mm-hmm. Before we leave, I'm going to ask you this one final question, and it's about I want you to be selfish about this. Tell me how good you feel when you see one of your speakers that you've trained hit a major milestone, a major platform, achieve major success. How good do you feel?
Yeah, it's part of the legacy I'm trying to leave. It. We all do.
Mm-hmm.
But you're happy for someone else's success and significance. That's what life's about, is when you can have people leave you saying, I like me best when I'm with you. I want to see you again. I think it makes that a pretty good day.
Big time.
And, leaving a legacy, it's very, very critically important that we figure out how to do that. May I suggest a formula very quickly?
You can take your time, too.
We hear from everybody, psychologists, coaches, motivational speakers, eloquent hosts like you, hey, you got to be present in the moment.
Mm-hmm.
You got to be present in the moment.
Okay.
I've analyzed why.
Excuse me. No worries.
I'm trying to make my body feel better as I move around.
All right.
I've tried to analyze, why is it so tough for some people to live in the moment?
Okay.
It's because their present sucks. So they medicate.
Yep.
Or they try to live in the past, which causes depression and regret. Or they live in the future, which causes worry, stress, and anxiety. So if we can block out those options and only focus in on right now, then anyone who comes to a speaker boot camp, anyone who comes to my story selling seminars, anybody who enjoys my my Master of the Morning Own the Day on Instagram at Dan Clark Speak, anybody who tunes into your podcast, anybody who can be the beneficiary of something we're trying to do to teach people to become better than they've ever been before, if we can focus in on right now, the present moment, my mind's not anywhere else. I'm focused, and so are you. My compliment to you since we met. Every person matters to you. They're the most important person in your conversation right now because you have eye contact, you're so gracious with your handshake, and people know you actually care. But that's a talent that all of us can perfect, but most of us blow off.
Yes.
Because we think it's about us when in reality it's always about the other person. And if you can be present in every moment, that allows you to eliminate stress, eliminate pressure like we talked about, and really accomplish what you want to accomplish right now. And the classic example
Okay, this sounds good.
came last year when all 4 divisional playoff games in the NFL came down to the last play.
Oh, my gosh.
There's not an actuary. I know, but we're going to make a positive experience out of this.
Please do.
So there's not an actuary on the planet who could have predicted that the 4 divisional games would come down to the last play of the game.
That's right.
So in my favorite game, Buffalo Bills against Kansas City Chiefs.
I'm going to go self-medicate real quick.
We have 2 character-based, incredible human beings. Josh Allen.
Oh, yeah.
Living in the mountains of Utah. I've watched his career in Wyoming. What a superstar human being.
Yes.
Not a human doing. And Patrick Mahomes.
Ooh, that's a bad boy.
And so in the game, it boils down to the last 2 minutes of the game, and collectively, both teams score a total of 25 points in 2 minutes.
Big time.
So the Bills go ahead, Chiefs go ahead, Bills go ahead, Chiefs go ahead. Bills go ahead 36-33 with 13 seconds left on the clock. Patrick Mahomes takes the field with his Kansas City Chiefs. On the 25-yard line, he must go 75 yards to either tie the game to go into overtime or win the game.
That's right.
And he has 13 seconds to do it.
That's right.
So if you're living in the future or living in the past, it ain't never going to happen. You have to be present in the moment and say, what can I do right now? And in 2 plays, Patrick Mahomes moved his team all the way down to the 40-yard line, and their kicker came out to kick the game-tying field goal with 2 seconds left.
That's right.
So what could you do in 11 seconds? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. What's possible if you just believed, if you focused in on right now? Interesting. their kicker was asked to come out and tie the game, and he had missed the previous field goal. If he was living in the past, he's like, I can't do this. I don't know why I chose the most stressful profession on the planet. I don't know what the hell I'm doing. I'm out of here. I quit. I'm not going out there anymore. I'm on national TV. I'm not going to do this. But he lived in the moment. He was present in the moment, went out there with confidence, and he kicked the game-tying field goal. Then Patrick Mahomes, the way that the rules were screwed up at the time, and I believe that they're at the rules committee now to change it so it's more of a fair fight at the end of the game.
That's right.
Giving perks and all the accolades to Josh Allen and the culture of the Buffalo Bills and the amazing championship performance that they put on the field. Patrick Mahomes, because of the way the rules were stated, the Chiefs got the ball first, and 8 plays later, he throws a game-winning touchdown, and they go. They win the game. And everybody, including Patrick Mahomes, will tell you that had Josh Allen had the ball last, there's no doubt that with his character, with his ability to focus in on the present moment and have every other player on the team focusing on what am I supposed to do right now, not what's my teammate going to do, trust that he trained and he's going to perform and step up in the moment.
Yes.
And all 11 of us, if we do what we can right now at peak performance level, there's a chance for us to do what we need to do to win. So we're complimenting Josh Allen. Even in defeat, time ran out, but he didn't lose. Time ran out, but the Buffalo Bills didn't lose. And the Bills made it to 4 Super Bowls in a row, not because it was a tragic loss, but because Coach Marv Levy and the owner and, quarterback Jim Kelly and Cornelius Bennett and, all the guys, Thurman Thomas, Bruce Smith, everybody was focused in on being the best that they could be based on the culture that the Bills had created, which now has resurrected itself, and the Bills will be in playoff after playoff and eventually in the Super Bowl before we probably get through with this podcast.
Wow. So I'm not sure, Matt, if you could see this, but I literally have goosebumps right now. And we were going to talk about football at all.
No.
This is cold. Ladies and gentlemen, give it up for Dan Clark. All right.
Cheers.
Thank you so much for coming in here, Mr. Clark.
You're a gentleman and a scholar, bro. Thanks.
You're right.
Thanks
Forget
so
good
much,
looking.
James. Yep.
I'm St. James. This is the legendary Dan Clark, and we will see you on the next one.
Thanks, man.